Good evening. How is everyone? I'm much better. Yesterday was sort of rough, but tonight I'm going to start my talk with reading from a book. It's called Room to Dance. It's poetry written by Stacy Siegel. I'm going to read the author's note because it really speaks to why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm sure people are questioning, why is she going live, talking about random topics and etc. But this explains it well. She says, when life is difficult, many people feel alone, believing nobody can truly understand their struggles. But in truth, although the story is different for each of us, we all live with and through the same emotional experiences: pain, joy, passion. These feelings are what I consider to be the common bond between human beings. It is my sincere desire that a person reading this book realizes that someone else has felt what they have and that they are not alone. The first poem that I'm going to share, it's not titled, but she says, "Into my soul the pen dips. Freely I write on pages. Words lace our humanness. Who I am, reaching who you are." My all time favorite poem in this book is Room to Dance. Incompleteness, obstacles. I turn away, never arriving on the other side. With holes, emotions, crammed in the closet, becoming too stuffed to open. History, waste from the past, littering my niche. I carry it with me, never letting go. Circumstances, clutter, infinite excuses why. What I have is not what I want. No clear path through the disorienting chaos. I wander, tripping, stumbling, falling. I choose. The rhythm of life seduces me into motion. Move by move, I complete, reveal, let go, engage, clearing the space, creating room to dance. And I really believe that's all any of us want. We want that space to be who we know, who we are authentically. But what gender roles has done, especially when it comes to intimate relationships, is it the two people when they come together, they have preconceived notions, even prejudices, um, based on believing because a person is a male or a female that they should want to do certain things or that they are just, supposed to do these things just based on their biological sex organs, because that's what gender really is about. It wasn't until the 50s that the idea of gender that we have now um, became a cultural thing, that girls are supposed to do this and boys are supposed to do that. It was in the 40s that the color blue and pink were assigned to girls, and of course, it was based on consumerism. The manufacturers and the retailers noticed and kept track of what colors people were buying for their children for whatever reason. And so then it became publicly uh, known that these colors, blue and pink, should be associated with uh, blue for boys and pink for girls. Tonight, I'm going to talk about my personal experience with gender roles and how I, from an early age, rebuked them. I thought that it was just insane that just because I was a girl, that I couldn't do certain things, or I was expected not to like certain things, or not to know certain things, or that type of thing. Now, my mother and my father, he was really, he would literally say, "You can't do that because you're a girl." And my mother, who grew up with four brothers who did everything that they did, she would literally jump in and say, don't tell her, she can do whatever she wanted to do. When I was a kid, I did this, I did that, and then sometimes it would actually end up in an argument because my father was so adamant that there were things that his girls couldn't do just because they were girls, to the point where he was willing to leave all of his assets when he died to my brother, stating that he would have to marry and have a family, and that the girls would marry and a man would take care of them. He had four girls and one boy. You're going to leave everything to the boy to help him take care of his family. But the responsibility of taking care of your daughters belongs to another man. That just didn't sit with me. I was around 15 years old when I finally made up my mind that I wanted a house husband. And that belief was born out of sitting in my mother's beauty shop and listening to the women. Most of them were married, and some of them were stay-at-home mothers, and they didn't have to work at all. And I noticed a lack of appreciation for the male in their lives. They talked about them like they were dumb, and they talked about what they would do with the money and how they would get the money. And then we had the ones who the husband was only giving them enough money to buy grocery, and he paid all the bills, but her responsibility was to buy the grocery and the kids clothes, and they were on a strict budget. I mean, it was just from one end of the gambit. It was absolutely amazing to me that women were allowing themselves to live that way. And I decided that no, if I have to make the money, I'll make the money so I can, what they say, he who holds the gold rules. That's the golden rule. I pay the cost to be the boss if it's got to be a boss. But that wasn't necessarily my true mindset. I didn't know, I didn't want to be a boss as much as I wanted to be more of a partnership and some form of equality within the household. And I never shared with my parents my feelings and what the conclusions that I came to by the way that due to the way that I was reared, because my mother didn't have to work, but of course she did because she was such an independent spirit. She got a chance to do whatever she wanted to do with the money that she did make. And my father paid all the bills. And it was also around the time that I turned 15 to 16 that one day my mother came upstairs after doing hair all day, and we didn't have any groceries in the house. We always had food, but we didn't have, what she felt like we needed to have in the house. And she felt that, she shouldn't have to do all the grocery shopping. So she announced that she would no longer be going to the grocery store, that my father would have to take us to the grocery store. And it was a true culture shock. My dad, I mean, he was real stubborn and she was real stubborn. So it was like a month that before he realized that she was serious, that she was not going to the grocery store. So he had to take us. And it was interesting, to say the least, because it really rocked him. He really felt like, she was the woman and she should she should do the grocery shopping, and she should do this and she should do that. That, he provides three hots and a cot. That was his favorite phrase to make. And he really thought that that's all that he was supposed to do. He never changed a diaper. I remember when I was 6 years old, I had a dress that had like 20 buttons down the back, and it was five of us, and my mom was getting, my sisters ready, and my brother and stuff. And so she told me to go in there and ask your dad to button you up. And he cursed the whole time. It just took so much from him to button my dress, that's something that my mother should be doing. And it, those kind of things just really, really stuck with me. So like I said, by the time I was 15, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to have a man that feels like he should not be involved in the day-to-day care and taking of his children, in the day-to-day functioning of the household. And that I meant cooking and cleaning and all of that. And that's what I had in my mind. And I manifested that. Now, I'm gonna say right off the bat, when you think of a marriage, I had the worst marriage possible. Everything that you could think of hit my marriage in some form or fashion. But what made me stay in the marriage was the things that I wanted the most. I got those. And the house husband and the husband who participated heavily in the caring for our children. Our first child was a son, a boy child, and we sat down and we talked about it. And he worked at night, and I worked during the day. So he basically nurtured and took care of my son for at least the first couple of years of his life. He totally did that during the day. And like I said, by the time that he went to work, it was time for us to go to bed. So I still had that help. And he wanted to learn how to cook. We made a agreement that we would trade off on times to get up to feed the child and to bathe the child or to change the child and all of that. And I actually have a picture of the first night. Man, I wish I would have thought about that. I have a picture of the look on his face when it was his turn to get up at probably like 2 o'clock in the morning to feed the baby. You could see on his face, he was like, I didn't know that it was going to be like this, but he still did it. I never had any complaints about how he was with our children and in helping, and not helping, doing what he should be doing. So throughout the marriage, well, in the beginning, he didn't really know how to cook, but he wanted to learn how to cook. So he would ask me to teach him different things, and I did, and he got to the point where one of the things that he learned to make better than me was rice. My kids still talk about that today, how my rice is not as good as it used to be, that their dad rice was better than mine or whatever. But he wanted to be a part. He wanted to be a hands-on um, father. And then he had a little OCD, which worked out for me because he was a neat freak and he was really, really clean. So when I would do my cleaning, my version of cleaning, he would go back and detail it, which was fine with me. Some people get attitude because people go behind them. I had no problem. If it wasn't good enough, just don't ask me to redo nothing. Now, we did have an issue because he, unlike me, he still had some biases. He still thought that I should want to clean just because I was a woman. Like it was cleaning was in a woman's genes. And I was like, no, that's not. Now if you start cleaning, then I will help you, but I'm not gonna initiate it. I just don't. So for a while, for about the first 6 or 7 years, he used to try to shame me, you know, into being more domestic as far as the cleaning and the clothes washing and stuff like that. I would do it when I got ready to do it. It wasn't going to be, but because he was a little OCD, that was every day. He felt like that should be done. And I told him, "You more than welcome. Nobody's stopping you. If you think that it should be done, Do it. I have no problem. You're not touching my domain. I had friends that would come over and my furniture would be, every other month he would change the furniture around. And I wouldn't why are you letting this man run your household? This is our household. We don't do the gender role thing here. He lives here just as much as I do. If he wanted to put the couch over there, he can put the couch. I don't, as long as he don't ask me to help him do it, I don't care what he do. And he did. He changed stuff all the time. And then he knew how to sew. I wanted matching curtains with my a bedspread that I really liked, but curtains didn't come with it. So he told me, he said, buy an extra pair of sheets. So I'm thinking, why we gotta have the same color sheets? It never dawned on me until I came home the next day and he had taken that extra pack of sheets and made a valance out of the fitted sheet and curtains out of the flat sheets. I, well, I tell you. And then he would, just do like a lot of little thoughtful things. He was, like I said, the OCD type of thing. The cans and everything had to be the same. Do you? I will put it back the way that you put it. But don't expect for me, just because I'm a woman, that I should think of these things. Maybe what's really happening is what he came to finally understand, and he got off my back. He came to me one day and he said, Wanda, I realized that I'm more domestic than you are. And ain't nothing wrong with that. And I was like, all these arguments that we had, it's too bad that it took you this long to come to that conclusion. It does not take away from your manhood at all to cook or to clean. Now, there's two things that he wouldn't do. He wouldn't fold clothes and he wouldn't wash dishes. He'd clean the kitchen up, spotless. But if it was dishes, they'd be piled in the sink. I had no problem with that because I didn't have to do nothing else. It was a beautiful thing. And outside of the cleaning, we really didn't have uh, too many more issues about gender. He was really, I mean, I manifested him seriously. I mean, I have no complaints when it came to being present in the household and knowing what was going on and was interested in what was going on and changing diapers and helping my kids with their homework. Later on, I started working on a third shift job, and I would go to bed at 2 o'clock and get up at 10. And he would make sure that the kids didn't bother me. He was attentive in that way and thoughtful in that way. And he didn't bother me. He'd run my bath water. He just, I don't understand it. But that people have an issue with that. And he was not as educated as I am. So he basically had minimum wage jobs and stuff. I didn't have no problem with that because the true things that we really complain about have nothing to do with finances. We don't want to have to come home every day and cook. We don't want to have to help the kids with the homework by ourselves all the time. We don't want to have to be the one that's always changing the diapers. We don't want to have to be the one that's always knowing what the kids are doing. And when you have gender roles within your household, that's what happens. Usually everything falls on the female just because she's the female, because she had the babies, so everything she's supposed to do, everything. All he has to do is just bring in the money. No, no, no. And I really do. I hate to use the word blessed because, you know, it was more than that. It was in the plan. It was in my mind. And no, I did not know that he was that type of person or that he had the capacity to be that way when I first met him. But it was revealed to me real quick and soon within in the relationship. And I would tell him, thank you. That's another thing. I was appreciative. And when no matter what he did, I would tell him thank you. And when my kids got old enough and if he handed them a plate of food or if he bought them some clothes or whatever he did, I would say, tell your dad thank you. I didn't demand that for myself, but I wanted because men need to feel appreciated. I did figure that out early. So it was thank you and I really appreciate you and that made him want to do even more. I had, I tell you, he been dead 6 years, and my son was talking about how OCD he was, and I was like, I miss it. I miss it. I've gotten better, you know, throughout the years, but it's it still just ain't my thing. I'm still trying to get that extra $100 a week so I can pay somebody to do what I don't want to do. But anyway, even with the solidarity and the equal footing that we have within our household to show you how strong gender roles are in this country. My son definitely thinks that there are certain things that he should do because he's a man and that a woman should do because she's a woman. And I'm like, well, you weren't reared that way. You didn't see that. Well, how is it that you have these ideas? Now that he's gotten older, it's evening out a little bit. But when he was in his teens, he would come up with some of the stuff. I'm like, where did you didn't see that? No, that was not modeled for you. But our society is so ingrained in our society, even with all the gains that women have made, they're still expected to be the primary caretaker of their children that both the man and the woman made. You know, they're still expected to come home and do everything. A man to come home, and I couldn't have. I'm so glad I'm not in this generation of these men that come home and play video games every day. It would be a murder. I would have a case. You got to be out your mind. You, I worked all day just like you worked all day, but you're going to come home and play, and we have kids to take care of, and cooking that needs to be done and cleaning that needs to be done. But you come home and you gonna play whatever these get. No, no, but that's happening a lot within the household because they still have that frame of mind that they don't have to do anything other than bring the money in, and that's it. And no, it should not be that way. And I have my daughter. She's manifested a man in her life who is 100% hands on with their child, 100% takes care of their household, you know, and I hope that my younger daughter does too because that's what they saw and they saw that that can work. There is no reason why a man can't cook a meal. I don't care, if it's barely edible. At least put forth that effort. Don't just blatantly make because I'm a woman that I'm supposed to do that. Now, even though I said that, I will say this. If you don't have that situation and you're a single mother, or whatever, it is your responsibility to make sure that your children have home cooked meals. Running to Mickey D's and Wendy's and, pizza all the time. You have to be concerned about your child's health. And part of me feels that way because of the fact that we are capable of feeding our children from our bodies. So obviously the creator meant for us to make sure our kids ate. But when it comes to the sharing of the responsibility of the care for the children, you know, everything else should be as equal as it possibly can be. And a man should not cook just based on the fact that he's a man, that he feels like it tarnishes his manhood in some type of way. And then the ones that feel like that, then they got to have everything a special way. And some of them don't want their food touching, or don't want onions in it and spices. Now, guess how you solve that problem? Fix it yourself. I'll make your plate after you cook it. I don't have no problem with doing that either. I'll serve you. But you're going to have to understand that it's not just about, because I'm a female, there are certain things that I have to do. The gender thing and the way that it affects us as women, it used to be that you couldn't get a divorce in this country, or if you did, you were shunned. Sometimes in your churches, in your neighborhoods, if you got a divorce. But the one thing for sure, that if a woman got a divorce, she was going to be poverty stricken, and especially before women were allowed to work outside the household. And when I say women, that's basically white women, because black women have always worked. But even with that, even with a black woman working, if she didn't have a man, she was living in poverty. And it's still that way to a certain degree. A woman that doesn't have support, financial support, and otherwise within her house, she's struggling. She has to be making CEO management money for that not to be the case. She's struggling on some level. Excuse me. And if she's making a certain amount of money, then she can't get assistance from the state. And it shouldn't be that way. We should have equal pay. We should have subsidized child care in this country, because the majority of the households are run by females. And the reason why they would pay males more is because how my father was thought, because the man is supporting the family. But it's no longer that way. Most of the households are ran by single women. But our mentality, that paradigm has not shifted to the reality of this fact that women are running the households. So they're working 2 and 3 jobs to try to take care of their children. And then what does that cause? Then the children are at home alone. The oldest child, no matter how old they are, 9 times out of 10 are being held responsible for the younger children. We have children raising themselves. And then in some cases, those children, because they don't have any supervision, especially young boys, they're out in the streets doing whatever it is that they do, becoming menace to society, being tutored by people who don't have their best interests at heart. And people don't think about this when they think about gender roles. They don't think about how it affects a woman economically, emotionally, because you've been taught that it's certain things that you shouldn't even want to do because you're a woman. You'll hear a lot of times women trying to be men. And then when you associate it with what they're talking about, it could be something simple as changing a tire. Really? I have 2 hands. I have strength in my limbs. Why is it just, I can't get my hands dirty? And some people really feel like that still to this day. That's it's just certain things that a woman shouldn't do. But by the same token, a lot of women don't have a man. And then the way that some of these men are reared, they can't change a tire. So it's just not supposed to get done. Excuse me? I don't understand that. And that's why I would always tell my husband, I am just as much a woman as you are a man. I'm not a little girl. I'm not a child. I have my faculties and I'm capable. And as long as I am going to do what I believe that I need to do, what I know that I can do. I'm not going to wait on you just because the dresser might be heavy or, I need to hammer something or, no, I'll figure that out and I'll get that done. Well, you should wait on me. Man should be really. But as you can see, you got the honeydew list. You wanted me to make a honeydew list. I made the honeydew list, but honey don't want to do it. But it still need to get to be done. And we used to have some of those conflicts early in the relationship because he would say, well, I should be doing this. A man should be. Okay, well, I'll make you a list, and this is what I need to get done. 1 month go by, 2 months go by. That's about all I could take. 8 weeks is it. If I say something need to be done, it need to be done. And if I got to do it, it's gonna do it. And I'm not gonna argue with you about your manhood over me asserting my womanhood. Come on now. And that's really what it comes down to. All these little rigid boxes that we try to put each other in, that leaves no room to dance. I got to be able to dance literally and figuratively. I got to be able to express who I am, my talents, my abilities, my wants, my desires, my goals. And if it crosses that imaginary line of what a woman should be doing or what a man should be doing, so be it. It took a man to make me. It takes a woman to make a man. But I don't know how we got on these opposite ends. And what is the true reason for that? Why do we have to have these guidelines to express our humanness? And more, you're starting to see they even have groups of men who have decided they want to be house husbands. They want to be stay-at-home dads because they want to experience their children. Those men that are doing that, they know what they missed out on from their fathers. And it may not have necessarily been that the father did want to do more, but society says it was okay for him not to do more. And it's easier to do nothing than it is to put yourself out there and take a chance at being something more than what some guideline tells you that you should be. I can't really think of any other ways that gender really affected my relationship with my husband. Now that I am single and a widow, and the type of woman that I am, when I go dancing, I don't wait for a man to ask me to dance. I get on the dance floor and do my thing. And the women look at me like I'm crazy and complain because no man is asking them to dance, so they sit there all night. Little club that I used to go to, the Elks on 6th and 6th Street, South 6th Street, close to Breckenridge. I'm sitting in the club one night, and a man and a woman came in, and they sat like across from me. So the woman just moving in her seat. She just run, and I'm thinking, how is this man sitting next to this woman, and he could clearly see she want to dance, but he's not. He ain't doing it. He's not getting on the dance floor with her. Period. So I done danced 3 or 4 records. And I saw him motion to her to tell her to get up and dance with me. It's like, okay. Now I'm the dance floor filler. So he don't want to, because I told my husband from the beginning, you my forever boyfriend. And I like to go dance, and we gonna dance. He didn't dance when I first met him. That was another thing too. He didn't dance. He thought that was girly. I don't know how that could be coming from the 70s with disco and the way that men used to dance back then, but he thought that was, a girl's thing. So the very first dance that we had, he just stood there while I danced and he clapped his hand and stumped his feet. The whole dance. And I'm just all over the floor having me a good time. But that also showed that he wanted me to be happy and he wanted to participate in that happiness on the minuteness level, clapping his hand and stumping his feet. But he was there. He was present. He was giving me what I want. He heard me. And no matter what he thought about dancing, he did the minimum of what he could to satisfy me. So what I did, because he didn't have rhythm, so what I did was I taught him how to dance. And, it was on then. We danced, we went out almost every week and enjoyed ourselves. These gender roles, we don't realize the roles that they play in the dismantling of our relationships. Think about it. If I leave you with nothing else, when this is done, and think about what you think a man should be doing. I mean, you see it all the time on Facebook, some of the most ridiculous things. I try not to say anything because I'm a boomer, I'm this or that or whatever they want to call me. But it's insane. A man's supposed to, a real man. What's a real man? And how would a woman know? A lot of these women that's talking about what a real man do don't even have a man. Ain't never had one for real. Still out here dealing with these little jackleg boys in a man's body, but their mentality is still childish. But they want to, put on memes with, what a real man would do. And the same thing go for men. A real woman do this and a real woman do that. How would you know? Because you can be guaranteed that if you experience a real woman, you will realize it ain't nothing she can't do. Okay? Your list would be so long that it's what's the point of even writing one? You encounter a real man or a real woman in the true sense, they willing to do whatever it takes to add to your happiness. People can't make you happy. They can try to take away from your happiness. They really can't do that if that's not what you want to happen. But people that are genuinely human and authentic, they don't put limitations on their abilities as a human being. Therefore, your gender just comes down to your genitals. And that's it. There should not have had to be Title IX so a woman could play sports. That happened when I was in school. Before the mid 70s, women was thought to not be able to could be sports figures. Insanity. Just craziness. It's just unbelievable. Just based on the fact that she was feminine. She's a female. They want to minimize and make it less. But when it comes to a man, the things that he thinks that a woman should do it, then if he do it, then he's less than a man. How could that be? It's insanity. And it erodes relationships. It keeps us from really fully embracing each other when we have limitations on what we feel that the other could or should be doing. We should be open to life experiences, full gambit. And yes, that includes cooking and cleaning and washing your own clothes and, taking care of you. That was one of my biggest pet peeves too. A man, I see friends that they would get married and they would be like, girl, and I had to find his socks for him. How was he finding his socks before he moved in, when y'all moved in together? Who was doing it then when he was living in his apartment? But now that he married to you, he don't know where his socks at. He don't know where his underwear at. He don't know how to iron his pants. He can't pick his clothes up from the cleaners. He can't pour his own water. He can't get a beer out the refrigerator. Seriously? And you falling for that? But what you said, that show make a lot of sense. Excuse me? But she had bought into the gender role thing too. I don't want to take care of nobody like that. We can take care of each other. If I go to the bathroom and get a towel for me, I get a towel for him. We had those kind of rules. And we was the kind of couple that when we came home from work, we ignored. That's just the first word that came out of my mouth, but it wasn't necessarily ignoring or neglecting. But we, you know, do get on there and get in your homework. But we went to the bathroom with each other and we sat and we talked for an hour every day. And yes, we did use the bathroom in front of each other. We were very close. Okay. I mean, that was just the experience that I had. And I am grateful for it because it showed me that we had a level of intimacy that is unmatched. It really is. It's unmatched. We were open, just spread open with each other. And like I said, he was an awful husband, but he was a great partner as far as partnering with me to get things done. The husband part, he didn't quite get that down, what you would traditionally think of as a husband. He didn't have that down. But when it came to lending a hand and pitching in and whatever that kind of stuff, he was right there. He was in on that. And I'm really, really grateful for the experience that I had in living with him because he showed me that it is possible for men to put that stuff aside and just do what needs to be done. That's what it should be about. You should want that partnership, that willingness to have each other's back for real, and not this expectation for one to do the other. He got to make more money than me, or she can't make more money than me. All that old, it's been so many people that's done got divorces over stupid shit like that. He couldn't stand that she was making $10,000 more a year than him, but he benefiting from it. But in his mind, that little $10,000 usurped his manhood, even though he was benefiting from it. So he was willing to give it up to feel like a man. That society says that he should, because society says that. I did learn this though. With the times that my husband was in between jobs, I could tell that it bothered him that he wasn't contributing financially. But I didn't have a problem with it because he was just doing double time on the housework and taking care of the kids. And, I can come home and take me a bath and eat and go to bed. I felt like, we ain't missing nothing. We still eating. We did. Your money was just extra anyway. Most of it anyway. When he was working, he was doing what he wanted to do with it. He buy grocery. He always make sure that the freezer and the refrigerator was full and the kids had clothes. But outside of that, He put a little here, put a little there, but the most he still did what he wanted to do with it. So I couldn't understand why you had a problem with, why you wasn't, you know, what? But I got it because it's about productivity. I love being productive. I love getting up, going to work every day, and all of that. And I don't know if I was being selfish or being unaware, or I don't know why that it didn't hit me. Why he felt a certain way about that. I don't think so much that it was tied to his manhood as much as it was tied to his need to be productive as a human being. I think that that's actually really what it was. But he would try to talk to me about it, and I'd be like, "Dude, we good." When he'd be like, "No, we're not." Well, why? What you want? What you need? You want $10 for your little bag of weed, and $15 so you can get some weed and some beer with. I mean, what? What? Because that's all he was doing anyway. So I'm like, but I got it, and once I got it, then I got it. We have to pay attention to letting the world dictate how we live within our households. You can create your own reality, and you should be creating your own reality. When you go out the house, you have to play the game. But when you inside your domain, you don't have to play the game. You can create your own game. So I'm going to wrap this up. I hope that what I said made sense. I hope that it'll benefit someone. And like I said, I'm doing what I'm doing because I want to share. I've had some great life experiences. I'm 59 years old and I lived my life. I made choices. People thought that I was a fool or, stupid, gullible, or whatever they thought about me. But I'm happy. I'm happy with every choice that I made in my life because it made me who I am today, free and happy, vibrant, intelligent, educated, wonderful children, great experiences. Hey, I see you. I'm at the end, Miss Ayetta. I'm winding it down. I'm doing my little wind down. But of course, you can get it and share it. Please share this if you would like to, you know. Um, I just would really implore everybody to think about how much of the world is affecting your world within your house. And a lot of times it has to do with gender roles, expectations that we have just based on the fact that he's a man and you're a woman. There's really no room for that because there's too much to be done. Just the everyday things require both parents to be involved, or even if you don't have children, to run a household, it really does take all hands on deck. And no hand should be idle just based on their gender, what they're carrying in their underwear. Seriously. I mean, it's just, I know when I say it like that, it has to sound still crazy to you. You mean to tell me that you can't wash dishes because you got a penis? I tell you what. I tell you what. Huh. You better rethink that. Or you mean to tell me, you know, that I can't carry a heavy bag because I have a vagina? Really? Hmm. Oh, before I go, yes, this was the biggest thing when we first got together. The opening of the door. I had been single when I met my husband. I was 24 years old. And our first big argument was because I reached to open the door the same time that he was reaching to open the door. I had never had a man do that for me. So, of course I've seen it on movies and all that kind of stuff, but a real life experience, no. And he would just berate me. You're never supposed to touch a door handle. When I'm with you, I'm the man and I'm supposed to open the door for you. What the hell? I've been touching door handles for 24 years and it had nothing to do with you. And so, me being headstrong the way that I was, we'd be standing at the door, whatever establishment we go in, we'd have a big old argument, people looking at us like we're crazy. Look, listen. So, what I had to do, because he was definitely very chivalrous. I mean, he never stopped being that way, especially if we was in public. I might as well just forget it. So when I would approach the door, I would lag back so that way I wouldn't even be at the door and he could open the door. When I would leave to go to work, if it was in the wintertime, or if I put a jacket on, he put my jacket on in the house, put my scarf around my neck, put my hat on, button my coat up. I'm just standing there. It took me a while to be able to do that. But I realized that made him feel like he was taking care of me. That it didn't necessarily have to do with the gender thing. Because I was taking it like, you think that I can't do this for myself. But no, it was his way of showing me affection and love and caring. So yeah, that took a while. That took a while. To open up the door, to opening up the car door, all of that stuff. It took me a minute to get in jive with that. Oh, the sleeping on he's supposed to sleep by the door. And when we walking down the street, he's supposed to walk on the outside. It took me a minute to get it. But I eventually, because that was important to him. So instead of me taking it as he thought that that was because I was a girl, type of thing. And really, that's really what it is. But it's chivalry, and that's antiquated uh, thoughts and stuff. People don't, they don't do it. But that's where he was coming from. And it didn't take anything from me to allow him to do those things for me. But it wasn't necessarily my school of thought. I didn't see where, it benefited me. I didn't have to touch the door handle. Okay. You know, I didn't have to button up my car. Okay. That type of thing. But, I finally relented to that. I let him have that because of how it made him feel. And sometimes we have to do that. It's books out about love language. People have different ways that they show love, and that was one of his ways. If he would come in the kitchen, and if I was on the step stool, which you buy the step stool to be able to reach the cabinets, but he would be upset if I didn't call him to come and get the bowl from the top shelf. Well, what I got the step stool, but I finally figured out, okay, that's his way of, being there for me. So some things, you have to choose your battles. But the most important things, the caring of the children, the feeding of the children, the bathing, the cleaning of the house. A woman should not have to come home and she got a man in her life that's in the household and have to do everything. He shouldn't be able to come home and read the newspaper like and fathers knows best. That's some bullshit. But now what they're doing is coming home and playing video games or sitting down immediately watching sports and, all of that. No, we need to come together, get what needs to get done, and then we can play. We need to, have that straight. So anyway, I hope everyone has a good night. Tonight we talked about gender roles and how it affects your relationships. The next time I'm going to talk about gender roles, I'm going to talk about how it affects in the workplace and maybe also in how we're seeing that some people feel that they are born in a body, but they have a mindset of another body. That's really a huge thing. Bruce Jenner is a perfect example. He's a perfect example. And although he just recently made these changes in his life, I've read some of his biographical stuff, and he knew that he felt that way when he was 10 to 15 years old. So it's interesting. I love you. I love you, Miss Yetta. Thank you, Miss Brittany Jones, for watching. I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys share this. And, it's just down home talk, just sharing, sister sharing, mother sharing, woman sharing. It's just important. We need to share more. We need to talk more about those things that we would rather not talk about. Love you. Peace. Have a good evening.